Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien, and this is my comic book thoughts in the shape of a comic book countdown, part of my ongoing comic book reading diary and collecting diary. I will do a little bit of a haul at the end of this. Can't remember, it might just be all trades. But I'll do what I've been doing the last few weeks, which is I'll do a quick countdown of these 11 books from Wednesday, August 17th. And then I'll flip the camera around and take a deeper look at them. So people who are worried about little spoilers, I try not to do big spoilers for the most part, or warn you if I'm going to do them. But for people who want to be very extra careful or not look inside the comics before they read them themselves, you can skip that part. I'll put a time note down below, and then I'll turn the camera back around and do a little bit of a haul. And I'd say the theme for reading this week, was one, that I rushed myself, which was probably not good, and two, that I felt a little not intelligent enough, maybe not smart enough for all these comics. Maybe that was my problem. The reason my normally I read like two or three books, or two or three comics. They're not books, but we call them books now. Two or three issues a day, and slowly work my way through whatever size stack I got for my new comics for the week. But but me and my family went away for a long weekend, 4 days in Bend, Oregon, and we had a good time. But we were staying in a motel, and somehow I just never found a comfort. I brought along the comics, but I never found a comfortable place to read them. I just read things on my iPad instead. And so I've read all 11 of these comics over the course of last night and during the day today. So I kind of pushed myself to finish them before the next load of Wednesday comics comes through. And that's probably not good for me. I need to kind of take my time, let them marinate, be in the right mood and everything. So that may also have affected my feeling this week, both that I maybe wasn't smart enough, but also that that most of the comics in my stack this week were of the okay. They were all okay. There was only one that I thought was beyond okay. And normally if I have like 11 comics, I'll probably have 3 or 4 comics that are in my pile of yay comics. These were the great comics, are great. But anyway, that could also just be the way this week went. The highlight of our trip to Bend was actually a trip beyond Bend. On Saturday night, we went to, what's it called? I think Lone Pine Mountain Observatory, which is beyond most light pollution. And they open up every now and then, and they have a bunch of their smaller telescopes available for use. And you're up on this peak, and you can really get a good look at the Milky Way. And they had one of their real telescopes, like up in a little tower with an engine that turns it around and stuff, also available for peeking in. So we we got good looks at Jupiter and Saturn and Andromeda, a bunch of star clusters, M this and M that. And other interesting things like that. And just even with the naked eye, that feeling of the sky full of stars and that dusty Milky Way arcing across the sky, which we just almost never get in our urban lives. And even when we go to a smaller town, there's usually some light pollution. It also takes staying up very late because the sun, long after the sunrise, there's still a glow in the sky, right? So it's almost not till 11:30 or 10 or 11:30 that glow is mostly gone. And then you see even more stars. So anyway, that was really fun. Big thanks to my wife for setting that up, as if she'll ever see this video. But anyway, that was really great of her. So on to the comics. 11 comics from Wednesday, August 17th. And on a whim, I picked up Entropy, which I am now putting at number 11. And I'd say this is very clearly at the bottom of the stack for me. It's written by Christopher Priest, which is why I picked it up. And it's got decent, fun art, but the story, there just wasn't any handhold, any way to grip onto the story and what was going on. It's read maybe, most charitably, this is like a prologue that within the confines of a graphic novel, you just go, okay, I don't know what just happened there, but it's setting me up. And as the story unwinds, all of this stuff in the prologue will make sense, if that's what's really going on. Christopher Priest is often a writer who makes me wonder if I'm intelligent enough to keep up with him. Although here I feel he or the editorial setup was such that, this was just work for hire by him. It's some character owned by Heavy Metal, part of their Tarna universe, I guess. I've read a little bit of Tarna, but I don't recall anything that this would connect to. So we'll see. Maybe I'll learn later when I read some more Tarna books or whatever what all this meant. So I put that in at number 11. In at number 10, and I think I'm going to stop reading at this point, Seven Sons, number 3. I was never madly in love with this. I really like the art. And it's just not clicking that much for me. In at number 9, I'm putting Jinx, which was a one-shot from Archie. It says Chilling Adventures presents Jinx, Grim Fairy Tales. It was okay. It was kind of fun. More later when I flip the camera around. Interesting, but also not getting me as excited as it should have, is this Frank Miller Presents. It's an ash can, technically, or officially. Part of it is black and white. I'll show it all later. But it was okay. It was somewhat interesting. Didn't get me super excited. So I was quite excited to find it. My shop had 2 copies. And I've heard other people say there's only 1 copy per shop. I don't know if that's true, and my shop accidentally got 2 or what. But after I picked up the 1 copy they had, then my shop owner said, I don't know where this came from, and he grabbed the other one and put it behind the counter. So, I don't know. At number 7, I'm putting 20th Century Men, a new Image comic that I found interesting, but I didn't super get into it. Then in at number 6, Harrow County, actually Tales from Harrow County. I was surprised this is not the final issue because a lot of Dark Horse books now are just doing 4-issue trades, but there's at least 1 more issue to go. I'm enjoying it. I almost dropped it, but I guess I forgot to drop it, and now I'm okay with continuing to read it. It's not really up there, I think, with the earlier Harrow County stuff, though. In at number 5, Above Snakes. I think it mostly reached this level because of the artwork. In at number 4, I put Barbaric, which had a lot of pluses and some minuses to it. So it kind of, the fun of it outweighed the negative stuff in there, so that I'm putting this up at number 4. But also this was kind of a week where everything but number 1 was kind of, like I would say number 9 through number 2 were all very close to each other, all kind of, in terms of my enjoyment of them this week, all kind of okay. But Black Adam is a little higher in the okayness. Black Adam number 3, this is also by Christopher Priest. This, again, like the other Christopher Priest, makes me feel like I'm not quite smart enough to figure out what's going on. But I feel like there's a lot more clues here, and I have more hope that I will be able to put it all together. And there's a lot that I am able to put together here. So I enjoyed that quite a bit. So I put it at number 3. Silver Coin, number 13, written by Johnny Christmas. And I know that that's a more out there alternative comics guy, although I'm not quite sure what I've read by him before. I feel like he also draws. But anyway, these are always drawn by Michael Walsh. And I enjoyed this quite a bit, but there was something about it I didn't quite get. I wasn't quite intelligent enough to figure out. On the other hand, my number one book is written for someone of my lack of intelligence. I was able to enjoy fully Usagi Yojimbo number 30. It's already made it to 30 issues of the color edition of this comic with very few pauses. I don't know, has it been doing about 10 issues a year at this point? Written, drawn, inked, everything but the colors, lettered by Stan Sakai. It was another excellent read. In the middle of a story, there were a few things about this, maybe I'll point them out when I flip the camera around, that I thought were different than all the other Usagi I've read. Now, of course, I've only been reading the color Usagi. I have almost no experience with Usagi previous to the color edition. So there you go. I will flip the camera around and we'll take a closer look at all of these. There's not a whole lot more to say about my my number 11 book, Entropy, except that it cost, it was a $5 book, a $4.99 book, and I think it just had 22 pages of art. And, as I said before, it was kind of decent art, but it wasn't something super special. Kind of reminded me of the kind of work you would see in Valiant comics. And I have to say, I feel a little guilty about it, but I kind of suspect Christopher Priest of having used some of his slightly intellectual narrative games to hide the fact that there's not really much going on here. I gather that there's basically a character who somehow becomes a cosmic being and in a way that is enslaved by some other being, but what that all amounts to, other than those bare facts, I couldn't really get anything out of this. It's if it had good writing, this would be a nice sort of mainstream superhero kind of comic, I guess. But yeah, I'm not sure what went wrong. Christopher Priest, this is probably just a paycheck for him and not a very important book. I don't know. Or maybe it'll turn out to be brilliant with issues that come later. Seventh Son, great artwork. I feel like the story really hasn't progressed much beyond the first issue, and it has continued to have some kind of blank areas that are just information about how all this works in this alternate present, I guess, basically alternate recent history. With this religious cult that's built up and sort of dominates American culture and perhaps worldwide culture over these 7 kids who were born, one of whom is supposed to be the Christ, I guess, but which one they don't know. And now, 5 of them are dead. And I don't know. I just didn't get a whole lot out of it. And I think I'm just treading water by buying it. 2 or 3 issues a comic can kind of glide on really cool artwork, but it usually needs to be a little more something there to want to just keep going with it than the cool artwork. Even though often artwork comes first for me, ultimately you need both. So I think I'm dropping that one. Not sure if I think I had it on my pull. This, I have no regrets getting this one shot about this Archie character who is a babysitter. I'm not sure if she has magical powers. She was reading fairy tales to the kids she's babysitting, each of which stars her. Kind of a clever conceit. They're all familiar stories, or variations on the familiar stories, like the monkey's paw. This one, I don't know a specific story, but a evil magician comes to town and hypnotizes everyone, and then the tables are turned on him. and then a sort of flipping around of the Cinderella story, Kevinatella. But it was probably the best one of the bunch. It doesn't really follow the Cinderella story very closely, and then it wraps up, in a just so kind of way. So, and in some ways, this, because there's been a bunch of Betty and Veronica retellings of fairy tales, and in some ways, this is just like that. It's like, which audience are they aiming for? The more adult horror audience that some of, like, Tales of Sabrina and what's the one where they all become zombies? Are they aiming? They're aiming here somewhere between that kind of kiddie, Archie stuff, which is fine, and that adult stuff. So it seemed to, it was a pleasant enough read. What did I just put it at number 9, sort of the first of the ones that I pretty much enjoyed. But it does seem to fall in kind of a gap or something where it's like, I'm not quite sure how to take this as a kid's book or a not quite successful book for older kids and adults. Very interesting, but didn't wow me, was this Frank Miller Presents Ashcan. I was already kind of unhappy when I read that Ronin would be drawn by Philip Tan. It's actually layouts by Frank Miller, pencils by Philip Tan, inks by Daniel Henriquez, and really nice lettering. The lettering is a standout by John Workman, who's still out there doing comics, I guess. And actually, I loved the mostly black and white look with the occasional color in the dialogue. What I didn't like was the way Philip Tan has chosen to sort of smooth out that Frank Miller style and make it look kind of, I don't know, slicker and a little more plastic or something. Story-wise, you can't tell much from the sample here, except that it's gonna be about a female character, I think, and it's gonna connect up to the events of the original Ronin. I'm trying to remember, at the end of the original Ronin, was the world destroyed or the city destroyed? I'm not sure. I can't remember now. I should reread Ronin. A lot of Ronin's appeal was Frank Miller's art, to be honest. It was a decent science fiction story, but what made it a real wow was the style that Frank Miller developed for that particular comic. Another thing to note is this paper is wonderful. It's a pseudo newsprint kind of paper. It has a really nice tooth and texture to it, but it obviously takes ink very well. Kind of reminds me of the paper that they're using on Mind Management. What is it? Mind Management Bootleg. Yes. Which looked really good in issue 2, the color and everything there. And I think if Ronin is going to be mostly black and white with just little bits of color, that's a plus. But I don't know, the Philip Tan pencils or the inkers inking too just give it too much of kind of a mainstream DC Comics circa 2010, when Dan DiDio, the publisher of this, was the king of DC. Then they advertised this, looks like a kid's book, Pandora. I don't know what to make of that. And then the much longer, denser preview is The Challenge, a prelude or a first chapter from Ancient Enemies, a comic book written by Dan DiDio. Which is a weak point. There have been a few Dan DiDio comics that were okay, but by and large, I have not been thrilled by Dan DiDio comics. And this one included. It was okay. So maybe it's just, under the Frank Miller imprint, where things are supposed to be really special or show you what one imagines. Dan DiDio just seems like a poor choice. But of course, he's the publisher of this new company. But anyway, this artist who I've never heard of before, Danilo Beyruth, produces beautiful artwork with beautiful colors by Alex Sinclair, who is kind of a standard DC colorist, but he ups his game here, I think, and it looks again really nice on this this toothy, rough paper. So it feels like DiDio's trying to take some of the tropes from various different science fiction stories and meld them together, where we're going to get, I think, superheroes from two different worlds that were at war sent to Earth, where they will become sort of like superheroes on Earth. So I'm on the fence whether I would get this. The art makes it really tempting. And I suppose if you stick to sort of tried and true sci-fi and comic book cliches, maybe it won't be too bad if you accept it as just that kind of story from DiDio. But it won't be anything special, I don't think, other than possibly the artwork. It makes me uneasy. Now, this is really intriguing. Frank Miller and Manara doing a Sin City story. I'll definitely pick that up just to see what it's like. But as I was saying, it kind of doesn't bode well to me that the story, that it's the Dan DiDio story that gets the largest preview here. Maybe because they figured that was the hardest sell, so they need to sell people on it. But putting Dan DiDio front and center at the company's launch, other than, I mean, I think he's a great publisher, a great editor, actually, or editor-in-chief type of idea person, or supporter of good comics. But I don't think he's a good... he's just an okay writer. Anyway, interesting. It was fun to get this. Now I almost think I should have ranked it higher just because of the novelty of it. But I ranked it at number 8. And at number 7, 20th Century Men was another comic that made me feel like maybe I wasn't quite smart enough. It's kind of an alternate history with a deconstruction of superheroes. Part of the problem might be, yet another deconstruction of superheroes. The bar is pretty high. There's definitely the shadow of Watchmen plus other great deconstruction of superheroes hovering over this book. And you have to maybe know as much history as the writer knows about the Cold War to see where the variations on the Cold War are, and how he's commenting on the Cold War along with different types of superheroes. The art, it's weird. I would love the art on one page and then kind of hate it on other pages. The artist sort of varies up his styles, which is kind of admirable. I loved this panel right there. I think I put that on Twitter. So there was lots of elements of this I was intrigued by, lots I didn't understand and I felt a little stupid about. And then I had a general, a bad attitude of make me like this. You're doing another reboot or another deconstruction of superheroes, again with an alternate history timeline, kind of like Watchmen. But obviously the alternate history or the way it ties in with modern 20th century history is very important. But I don't know. Often there's these pages with lots of dialogue between characters, and I don't get what's going on between them. So it's kind of like lose my interest for a while. Then there were bits and pieces that got my interest, or saying, "Oh, give me a little more of this, explain this a little more." So this is a comic I don't know whether I will pick up another issue or not. I did see a reviewer that I admire a lot make it his pick of the week, and so we'll see. I might give it another issue. It's a very long comic, and it only costs $3.99. I think it was 40 pages. So it's intriguing. I enjoyed Harrow County more. It's a less ambitious book than 20th Century Men, at least this Harrow County story. I need to go back and read the early Harrow County. I've got it in hardback, and I just haven't. You collect these things because they're going to go out of print, and then you kind of put them on a shelf and think you will eventually read them. And hopefully I will have a big sit down with Harrow County soon. I enjoy these. It's enjoyable, but not more. It doesn't grab me on a deeper level. I think maybe partially because there's background to these characters, perhaps, that I don't know. That would give it more of an emotional punch, perhaps, or perhaps not. I like the art quite a bit. As I flip through it here, I kind of feel they need to vary up the color a little more often. But it's kind of a nice coloring style anyway, with that almost possibly watercolor style to it. So I think I suspect there's just one more issue to go with this, but we'll see. Above Snakes has really good art. And I rank this at number 5. It's a Western revenge story. It's got this odd framing device with this really weird looking masked guy who's giving out medicine to people. And I really don't get that part. I'm not intelligent enough to figure that out. I really like, what's his name? Hayden Sherman's art with his own coloring. Looks really nice. And it has kind of a dreamlike effect. I think this is all supposed to be like a really weird psychedelic tall tale of the Wild West. And mostly it works. I think, I don't know why I'm sort of okay with it, but I'm not super excited by it. I don't know whether I will buy the next issue or not, depending on my mood. I probably will buy the next issue of Barbaric, just because I'm all in on wanting more Barbaric from that first 3-issue series. Even on the cover, you can see the problem with the coloring makes the shapes hard to make out in a certain way. And so I think art-wise, I liked most of the drawing, and the coloring at times gave me problems. It's not horrible coloring. There's some interesting aspects to it, but there are other times where the art kind of, the color and the art didn't work together and kind of obscured the action. And I missed a one-shot, I think, and so this blonde character, perhaps he was introduced there, I don't know, or maybe we're just plunged into their relationship from the beginning. And I'm a little confused if these two characters, if Owen knew this character who's been a vampire for 80 years back before he's a vampire, how old is Owen? Is there something I'm missing on Owen? I thought he was a very simple barbarian, except for the fact that he had this magical axe forcing him to act in ways that he doesn't want to. A really weird thing is, I don't know if it shows up there, but most of the time when they show the axe face, they blur it computer-wise. I don't know if that's, let's see if I can find it, the fault of the colorist. But they frequently, like there, that's the axe's face there, I believe. The lines will get fuzzy. They blur it just somewhat. It almost has the effect of looking like the printer made a mistake. I'm having trouble finding the pictures of the close-ups of the axe's face. But there it is. Is it have that effect there? I don't know. Anyway, it's definitely something I noticed and it bothered me. And, they say fuck so many times. It's not that funny. And they do really gory things. And that, after a while, was not that funny. I think it's almost like they don't trust what the real strength of the book is. And they do this other stuff trying to, I don't know, throw in more jokes by making it really gory and saying fuck all the time. It would be nice to explore this world a little more thoroughly, and I don't know if we'll get that or not. But anyway, it still was kind of fun, and there's some outrageous scenes like a battle with a gigantic kraken that was just crazy and kind of fun. So yeah, this Barbaric also was so. I definitely was kind of pissed at myself for spending $5 on Entropy. Barbaric was also a $5 book, and I kind of am rationalizing, well, Vault is a small company and they just haven't been able to make it pricing like the other things. But they did actually give us like 32 pages of actual story and art in here. So it wasn't such a bad deal that way. Love that image of the master vampire. It's a really weird hat he's got. Black Adam was another one of those books where I didn't feel like I was completely smart enough to figure out everything. But Christopher Priest is moving around in kind of a circle in terms of time, showing different events and unveiling perhaps what's really going on, which is fairly complicated as far as I can tell, with the various characters and with what's going on with Black Adam himself. I thought we'd get some more scenes with White Adam, but the White Adam storyline is more just about the Doctor trying to figure out how to heal Black Adam, the Doctor who is White Adam, and whose last name is White, but he's a black man. Anyway, it was fun. The art's really good for like a really good DC Comics, modern DC Comics style art, a very good version of that. A lot of visual excitement and a lot of interesting little mysteries. So I think I'm pretty hooked on Black Adam. It's supposed to be 12 issues, so that gives Christopher Priest and his team a lot of room to kind of explore the story that they've set up. So this was my number 3 book. In at number 2, and I have to warn you, there is really gross. So when I open this up, there'll be some pretty hideous looking stuff in here. Pretty horrific story by Johnny Christmas and Michael Walsh involving a woman giving birth. And so I gave this, in some ways, this reminded me more of a Ice Cream Man story in its exploring kind of the uncomfortableness of real life, much more extreme in a sense than a lot of what we get in Ice Cream Man. Kind of hallucinatory, where we get these really gross scenes. This is the woman confronting her baby, apparently. I'm not sure how all this works. And I guess it's part of the process of the silver coin is taking over the baby in her womb. And so you're never quite sure which moments of violence really happen and which don't. But I kind of like that. I enjoyed that trip. Although by the end of the comic, whatever happened at the end of the comic, I was not smart enough to figure out. So that was kind of the one slight downer about this. Michael Walsh's colors, he does his own coloring, I believe, are fantastic. And really well. No. Oh, Michael Walsh does the colors with Tony Marie Griffin. So 2 colorists, including, you have to sort of assume that Michael Walsh has a lot to say about the colors that we see here. So yeah, very intense, and I don't know what it meant at the end, although I think this baby is now the silver coin. Yeah. And last, but definitely not least, my number one book, Usagi Yojimbo. So, in the past, Stan Sakai has always told us how many parts there is to a story. So he'd say, part 1 of 3, but this just says part 2. And so I don't know how long it'll go on for. Kind of feels like one that will go on for just 3 issues. The Secret of the Green Dragon, part 2. So our heroes got involved in preventing a series of robberies by these bat ninjas who are really evil and kind of wahaha evil, which is a little unusual for Stan Sakai in the 40-odd, 50-odd Usagi issues that I've read now. Usually there's a sense of the, quote, humanity of every character, even the bad guys, I think. But here, these bat creatures seem more evil, and they seem more bat-like. Like most of the anthropomorphic creatures in Usagi Yojimbo, if there's something about them that is reflected in what kind of animal they are, it's more subtle. Whereas these bat ninjas are, their batness is a very big part of what they are. Not that I'm complaining about that, but and then let's see. Well, here's the typical, when a character dies, they just have a skull in their word balloon. But somewhere in here we have actual blood. So that was also different than your usual Usagi. I can't find the blood now, but it was definitely stood out to me. It was very cool. This I couldn't remember the name of this woman character who's head of a band, or used to be the head of a band of ninjas. But it was very cool, sort of showing all her secret passages and secret people working for her and stuff, things not being what they seem in this simple village or simple town. Anyway, very intense, very good. And I like that it's not exactly the same, that there's a different vibe here, a more sort of violent, scary vibe than I've seen in other Usagis. Yeah. So I wonder if, now that he's been drawing with color as part of the process for 30 issues, if we have seen Stan Sakai's art open up a bit, is there more room for color than there used to be? Or would he be just drawing in this exact same style? Just there's some blood, part of his evolution as an artist. I feel like his style has loosened up a bit since I've been paying attention. In a good way, no complaints at all. So far, no sign of his age. Stan Sakai's, not a young man anymore. He's been doing this a long time, but he still seems truly in control of every element. So there you go, the 11 comics in this closer up look with a bit of a spoilers involved. And now we will flip the camera back around and I'll show you a little bit of a haul. All right, at the comic book shop, along with picking up my new comics, I got this 4-issue set of Cosmic Boy. When would this be? 1987. 4-issue miniseries about Cosmic Boy. I've been in a Legion of Superheroes mood, and it was cheap, and all 4 issues were there, so I thought I'd give it a try. And then out of the dollar bin, I got this American Honda Presents Supergirl. I think maybe I already have a copy of this, but I'm not totally sure. The art in it's actually pretty nice. Let's see. It's Angelo Torres art. And Joe Orlando. Joe Orlando is the colorist. and a whole committee were the writers. Joe Orlando, Barry Marks, Robert Loren Fleming, Andrew Helfer all worked on the story. And then even more intriguing, Superman meets the Quick Bunny. The Quick Bunny was a big part of my childhood. I drank a lot of Nestle's Quick. So did my dad. He was quite the chocoholic. And this one has art by Carmine Infantino and Dick Giordano. And I'm sure it's going to be very violent and deeply philosophical. Oh, here's the back cover to the Supergirl one. That looks nice too. And then I grabbed some sort of later in the run Marvel Conans, which I don't have a huge amount of. And they all have John Buscema artwork. This one, inks by Pablo Marcos. That looks good. At least promising on the first page. Pablo Marcos was a inker that I had love and hate feelings for as a kid. He made the faces too harsh for my liking. And this one, 179, has a cover penciled and inked by John Buscema, I'm pretty sure. And it looks very cool. Interior art, I don't think... Did Buscema do his own inks on the interior? Where are the credits? It's unusual in a comic from this era not to have credits early on. Are they on the last page? Nope. I wonder where the credits are. It's John Buscema breakdowns, Bob Camp finishes. Well, Bob Camp gives us a good John Buscema style inking. And another really nice, this one's more beat up. It's got a curved spine, but really nice Conan cover, John Buscema Conan cover. And this one looks like Buscema and Ernie Chan. Yes. Breakdowns John Buscema, finishes Ernie Chan. So these are nice to find when you find them nice and cheap. Picked up an issue of Jack Staff. I know I'm definitely a fan of, is it Paul Grist? Yeah, Paul Grist or Paul Grist. I can't remember if I've read much Jack Staff before. I don't think I've read very much. And then I grabbed 2 previous issues of Starhenge, something I missed in my regular shop. So the Jack Staff and these I got at my backup shop, Books with Pictures. And I think at Books with Pictures I also got these Swamp Thing trades. This is the first Ram V Swamp Thing trade. And this is the second one. Does it say issues 5 through 10? So I guess the final trade will have to have 6 issues in it, unless they break it up some other way. So I've been hearing, so much great stuff about the Ram V Swamp Thing. I wanted to check it out. I also got, and I haven't removed the shrink wrap from this. I'm getting so much stuff. I'm kind of saving, going through this latest Jim Woodring book, which has... his character Frank. It has some reprint material and some new material, I believe, interleaved together. So that's interesting. Also a little annoying that one has to buy twice. And apparently I asked my shop to get me the paperback version, and I'm a bit surprised in myself because you would think I would have asked for the hardback version. But I'm now vaguely remembering maybe the only hardback version was a signed slipcased hardback version that was really expensive, so I decided not to do that. Okay, and then I got just today a bunch of stuff from the library that I had put on hold. So there's The Golden Age, which has been highly recommended by Terrence, Comic Crack. I don't know if he watches these haul or these review videos anymore, but so I'll be trying to catch up with him and Rasa on this book. It's got quite an unusual art style, and I know that Terrence really loved it. And I guess there's more than one book in the series, maybe 3. Then I got Time Zone J by Julie Doucette, her latest work, which I guess there's a lot of controversy over the fact that it has not been nominated for awards. Of course, Doucette just won the Grand Prix this past year at Angoulême. Or was that a whole year ago now? Was that last summer? When does Angoulême happen? I don't know. And then a bunch, I went overboard. You go on the library website and you search something and you get all the books they have by Jason. So I put almost all of them on hold. And of course, they've all come in at the same time. So this one, the titles are kind of funny. On the Camino. And I've only read I Shot Hitler, or I Killed Hitler, one or the other. I think it was I Shot Hitler. And I loved that, but I don't know if I'll like all these others, but the other titles are more mysterious. Oh, Josephine. If You Steal. And What I Did. Which country is Jason from? Norway, Sweden, Norway. He's a Norwegian cartoonist who I think has kind of a cult following here in the U.S. I think they're published by Drawn and Quarterly. Fantagraphics. At least this one is published by Fantagraphics. And then I got, also from the library, I don't know how I'll have time to read all of this, but I think this is a book that was recommended to me by Celia. So I put it on hold and it came in very quickly. 172 Hours on the Moon. Did Celia recommend that? And then Planetfall. I know Celia did recommend Planetfall. So some, for me, relatively recent science fiction. I think a lot of my science fiction fandom peaked in the 80s and 90s and then kind of faded after then. Yeah, this is a 2015 book, so I just don't keep up with who the great authors are of current times, but maybe I will have found a new author by reading Planetfall. So there were actually a few other things that I couldn't find right now that I bought in Bend, so I'll just have to show those to you in another video. But yeah, too much stuff. I'll probably read a few of those Jason ones, and if I like them, have to renew them from the library or get them out again. So talk to you all later.